Hello, friends. There is one solitary great blue heron who stalks the edge of the island that's directly in front of my lake house. It's beautiful slate gray coloring with a white head and these black eyebrows that extend beyond his head, and white lacy feathers on his chest make him a beautiful, beautiful, and very large bird. His neck is usually in a tight S-shaped curve, spring-loaded, ready to spear a fish. I can watch him for hours with my binoculars or without, as he can stand still as a statue or silently stalk the edges, ready, looking for aquatic life to feed on. I've actually seen this heron spear a fish and fly off with it in its beak. And his flight. So elegantly, he flies with these undulating, slow movements of his wings. Doesn't have a name. I haven't named him, but for now he is my heron. Hello, I'm Dr. Renee Harmon. I'm the author of Surfing the Waves of Alzheimer's. It's a memoir about my husband Harvey and his time with younger onset Alzheimer's disease. These weekly vlogs that I do are either informational or motivational with topics pertaining to giving care to someone living with Alzheimer's disease. Or they are more nature inspired, where I've encountered or had an experience in nature that informs me in some way. And that's what today's post is, a more nature inspired post. Well, this great blue heron, besides being directly in front of me on the island, I've also seen him high in branches of a tree behind my house and on the roof of a neighbor's boathouse. And I've startled him off the edge of my seawall occasionally. I've been at this lake house now for almost a year, so I've watched this one heron throughout autumn and winter, spring, and now well into summer. Always in the same location, always the same behaviors: the stalking, the flying, and the screeching. The most arresting thing about this bird, beyond his grace and beauty, is the noise he makes. As elegant as he is, the sounds that come out of this bird are pure pterodactyl roar. He roars when I startle him, and he roars whenever he flies. I don't know, letting everyone know that he's in the neighborhood. One day, I think it was early March, I came to the lake house late at night, and the next morning I got my coffee, got on the porch, and I heard these dinosaur roars. Not the usual grunts of the cormorants who are usually there, but I looked and there were so many great blue herons on the tops of two pine trees. They had displaced the cormorants to a nearby dead tree. Now, I counted at least 16 great blue herons that day. They seemed to be nesting pairs, and then as the month went on, there were more and more. It was difficult for me to get an absolute count because they kept coming and going with each other, squawking and squabbling with each other. And then some great white egrets showed up and shared the same two spindly pine tree tops with these herons. They entered into the squawking and squabbling as well. And I was amazed that these two spindly pine trees could support the weight of all these birds. They're not small birds at all. And then when the babies came, I really couldn't see them that well. They were far enough away, and then maybe they were just big enough I couldn't tell the difference between babies and parents. But they obviously had babies, and then one day in June, the trees were given over to the cormorants again, and only the one lone great blue heron was at his usual stalking spot. I assume he was up in the trees with the other birds, but he would always still come fish at the spot directly across from my lake house. Well, all this bird behavior had me researching, of course. So I did find out that herons do nest together, usually in the same location, usually on an island in the same nest, but with different mates. They prefer islands because it's a protection against land predators. And they don't mind sharing the treetops with other species. And they call this a heronry rather than a rookery. And one behavior I saw that was explained by my research was a male mating behavior where they would stretch their necks straight to the sky with the beaks pointing straight up as a mating behavior. And to me, when I read that, it was as if these male birds were saying, "Look at my beautiful long neck. You will never see a more beautiful gray blue heron, all you ladies." It was fascinating. And I also learned that after incubating for about 27 days, the clutch of 3 to 6 eggs would hatch. And then it was another, I think, 55 days before the birds flew away or fledged. And then another 6 weeks before they left the nest completely, because the babies, the fledglings, did not have the skills, the fishing skills that their parents do, so they still relied on their parents to provide food for another 3 weeks. So sometimes I feel like that heron, solitary but self-reliant and making my own path. I am self-reliant and self-determined and listen to my inner wisdom to make my own way. I don't need solid strength, just my balance and patience and determination. And when I've had enough alone time, I'm happy to join my family for a bit of squawking. Mostly, I am just blessed by having this great blue heron choose my island across from me and to let me observe him for such extended periods of time. What a gift. Thank you. Be well and keep your balance.